Hello Fanatics, I'm Dylan Phillips and here's our review of Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, and David Harbour. Here we'll give you our spoiler-free rundown, our overall thoughts, and final rating of the film. Let's get started. Black Widow follows the story of Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, after the events of Captain America Civil War, when she is forced to confront the darker parts of her ledger. As a dangerous conspiracy arises with ties to her past, Natasha is pushed into action to help those she used to consider family long before she became an Avenger. This forces her to confront her history as a spy and the traumas that came with that, while trying to take down the organization that made her and evading the US government. 24 movies. It took 24 movies until Black Widow was finally not a supporting character and got the spotlight. Even still, people continue to find ways to be upset about the result. Oh, this isn't her origin story. Where is Budapest? Well, there's no tension. We know she survives. These and many other comments continue to plague this movie until its delayed release. But finally, we can critique it for what it is, rather than the what if that people are mad about. Black Widow is not your typical MCU film, and by that I mean it isn't a superhero film. Sure, Natasha Romanoff is an Avenger, but she isn't a god or possess any super abilities or super tech. It's just her and her particular set of skills. This allows the film to take its foot off the pedal and sway from the tropic formula of Marvel's mainstays to focus on a more human and grounded story that is reminiscent of how Black Panther was a refreshing change of pace. That isn't to say that Black Widow is on the same level as Black Panther by any means, but that both films feel like they can be better categorized in a different genre, as they instead tackle a human saving humanity story with a protagonist going through an identity crisis at the center. With that comes a film that unfortunately has a bit of an identity crisis itself, as it cannot seem to define its own action and place within the espionage genre. Instead, it feels like scenes, both narrative and action-based, were pulled directly from memorable spy thrillers and pieced together to create the algorithm for the ultimate spy story within the biggest existing cinematic universe. The Bourne series, James Bond, Mission Impossible, Salt. Each classic film in this subgenre that carved the path for this film somehow manages to find a piece of itself blatantly recognizable at some point or another. Even beyond this identity crisis, this film has a few shortcomings that are not easy to overlook, including weak storytelling and paper-thin characters that are either underused or forgettable, which is saying a lot for the caliber of this cast and the potential of some of these characters within the universe. It certainly isn't easy to make the Russian Captain America or an assassin who can mimic any fighting style feel boring or mundane, and yet Black Widow does that with both. Thankfully, the film does have its positives as well. The action sequences are exceptional as expected of any MCU film's fight choreography. The film manages to ride the line of maintaining the lighthearted comedy of the MCU thanks to the scene stealing Florence Pugh, while also making sure not to sugarcoat or sway from the serious themes at the center of this story. And while the characters are a bit flat overall, the performances were outstanding, with the obvious standouts being Johansson and the aforementioned Pugh. Black Widow is an espionage thriller set in a superhero world that is an identity crisis story within a film facing its own identity crisis. Some may find this story lacking or a disservice to this character, but it fills in just enough backstory on this character and her pre-Avenger past while not being a typical origin story. While it's hampered by some weaker writing, a few forgettable characters, and too much mimicry of other films in the genre, it still manages to deliver a strong, thought-provoking narrative about the family you choose and how they define us. This film, despite its inconsistencies, manages to be a formidable addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and one that hopefully helps bring closure to one character while setting in motion the story for many others. So I'm going to give Black Widow an 8. And that's our review of Black Widow. If you've seen it, what did you think of the film? Did you like the story? Let us know in the comments below. I'm Dylan Phillips, and thanks for watching.